Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is Rachel's What Works For Me YouTube channel, where I talk about different things I've learned throughout my life that work for me. Right now, we're in the middle of a What Works For Me Financially series, where I am walking through the Dave Ramsey baby steps, which is the path that my husband and I took to become debt-free and is taking us on the path to be financially free. So lots of other things work for other people, but this is what works for me. So today we're talking about baby step 2, which is the baby step focused on paying off consumer debt. And this was a huge step. It took my husband and I about 2 years to pay off $72,000 in consumer debt on a household income about $55,000. So lots of lessons learned, lots of emotions and feelings and practices and mindset shifts that I'm excited to share because it changed our lives. It changed our marriage. It changed us as individuals. Powerful, powerful stuff. So a little backstory on me with debt. I grew up being very afraid of debt. It was something that my parents fought about and hid from each other. And so I learned that debt was shameful and caused problems. So when I graduated from high school and I went to college, I was determined to be debt-free when I graduated from college. So I got a scholarship to the University of North Texas, which is where I went to school. And I worked 2 and 3 jobs throughout my entire college career, only had 3 jobs for a few months because I couldn't sustain the work level. But I paid cash for my college degree and graduated in 3 years because I was able to test out of my freshman year. So that was another thing that I did to kind of, I took AP classes and took the AP tests and was able to, pay, I think, $75 a class for those credits as opposed to the full, I think at the time it was like $100 an hour, which is crazy to think about now. My college degree is old enough to drink, so it's been a while. But I just was on the path from a fear basis of no debt. And I then accrued some debt in my first marriage. I married an alcoholic. And so for about 3.5 years, I tried lots of different things that were definitely tied to finances to try and save that marriage, which ended up in divorce. And I took all of the debt out of that marriage. And so in my healing process after that, I worked through and paid off all of that debt all by myself. And so that was my first attempt at becoming debt-free. And I did not have a guide for that. I just decided that all of these payments to all these different debts that I had, credit cards and loans and stuff like that, were limiting what I could do daily, like in my current life. And I wanted my current life to be free of that old experience. And so I focused really hard. And at that time I used a debt consolidation company, which is not a Dave Ramsey principle. He does not agree with the use of those, but that's what helped me at the time. So that's what I did. Fast forward to 2017, and my husband and I, who have been guided by some friends to go through the Dave Ramsey class, which was a meeting once a week to go through each of the baby steps, kind of like what I'm doing with you, but it was the Dave Ramsey curriculum. And so we go to baby step 2 class, which is about debt payoff. And until this point, Chris and I had separate finances. I think we had a joint at that time. I think we had a joint account where we were paying bills out of, but we didn't know about each other's debts. We didn't know about kind of all that stuff. And so we go to this class, and the thing that resonated with me the most was this concept that debt is paying for stuff with your future work. Cash is paying for stuff with hours you've already worked. And when I realized that every time I used my credit card, every time I took out a loan, every time I financed something, I was committing myself to work in the future, that changed my whole mindset. That was enough for me to be ready to do what it took to pay off the debt. Another piece, I think that really resonated with my husband, was that debt is really risk. It is added risk to your life. So should anything in your situation, so maybe right now you can make all your payments. Maybe right now you can pay your credit cards on time and you can pay your car note and all that stuff. If anything changes in your situation, those payments are added risk. You don't have as much flexibility. Like if you hate your job, you can't leave because you need that paycheck to pay your debts. If you get sick, there's a lot more stress on getting sick when you have debt to pay as opposed to when you don't. And so those kind of two pieces were the foundations for us. I didn't want to commit myself to more work than I already did. I already work hard. And we wanted to eliminate as much risk as possible from our lives so that we would have freedom to choose. And I think that's what financial freedom is for us. It's not multimillionaire status. It is the freedom to choose, to leave a job I don't love, to put up a new fence if our fence is old and raggedy, to have the flexibility to move financially, the freedom to choose and not be locked in because we have all this debt. So that's all the mindset stuff. As I mentioned, so the baby steps say that you first write down all of your debts in order from least to greatest. And so we had debts on our list that were credit cards, student loans from Chris's college, car payment, my car payment. And I think that was everything. It was credit cards, student loans, and car payments. And, or maybe our cell phones. I think we still had to pay off our cell phones at the time. And so when we got together and we wrote down our lists from least to greatest, first of all, we realized how much debt we had. We had more debt than we made in a year. That is humbling. That is sobering. But because we'd gone through the class, we knew we had a plan. And the plan was to, after our budget, which is something I've covered in a previous episode, we knew we had ratcheted our budget down to where we had, all of our debt payments were included in the budget. And our first goal was to tackle and pay off that first smallest debt. Now, there are lots of theories about this. There are some who believe that you want to look at the interest rates and pay off high interest rates first. There are, lots of different theories about the way in which you pay off your debt. Paying off using the snowball method of paying off the smallest and then taking that payment and applying it to the next, and then taking those two payments and applying it to the next is what worked for us. And there are a couple of reasons it worked for us. First of all, by tackling the smallest debt first, you build momentum. And momentum is important when you're doing something that you don't want to do, which is be strict with your spending, right? It doesn't feel great to be strict with your spending. But when you have a goal and you can see the end of the goal, you can push. And so we followed that path of going down our list of debts and paying each one off according to size and rolling that money into each payment gets added to the next and the next and the next. We also would use any extra money that we had each month towards the debt we were working on. And so we would have wins every few months where, we'd pay off a debt and then 3 months later we'd pay off another one. And then 6 months later we'd pay off another. The big ones at the bottom, the credit card debt that were our biggest, took a long time. But we had the momentum. We knew we could see the difference and we saw our payments getting bigger, which was really satisfying. So we've been debt-free since 2019, and it is not something I will ever do again. If I can't afford to pay cash, I will not buy it. And it is so freeing. It has allowed both Chris and I to make choices about our employment. It has allowed us to build the discipline necessary to make sound financial decisions. It's also taught us that just because your situation is a certain way today does not mean it will even be that tomorrow or in 3 months. I think a lot of people will look at debt and they're like, I'll just always have it. It's just never going to go away. And that's not true. It doesn't have to be like that. It can take a period of very focused effort on a singular goal. So, this isn't specifically mentioned, but it's later in the baby step process. But things we were not doing during our debt payoff, during our baby step 2, we were not investing in retirement. We were not paying extra on our mortgage. We were not doing anything other during that period of focusing on our debt. If something broke in the house and we needed to repair it, like our air conditioner went out, then we would pause baby step 2, pay for the air conditioner with cash, and then resume our debt payments after the fact. So life is going to happen while you're doing this process, and that's something that's totally understandable. Also, things like Christmas happen when you're paying off your debt, birthdays and all that stuff. So taking care of your responsibilities and not adding to your debt during your baby step 2 period are the things that help you get there. Having done it, having accomplished it, did several things for me personally, and I think my husband and I's relationship and our marriage and our financial future. First of all, being able to have open conversations about hopes and struggles financially is something I didn't see modeled in my house. I didn't see that growing up. And it was scary at first, but Chris and I have built such a level of trust because of our ability to talk about, oh my goodness, I really want this or that thing now, but that's not where we're focused. And being able to encourage each other and bring each other, for him it was like woodworking stuff, and for me it was, clothes and whatever, just things that we liked. Being honest about, Dave Ramsey refers to debt as mess, like the mess you've made. And being able to talk through the messes that we had made and why we had them and what they were, and understand ourselves better was amazingly helpful. And just to be together to accomplish something so big that so few people do. Dave Ramsey talks a lot about being weird, that normal debt is normal, and you want to be weird if you're going to be financially free. And we were lucky to go through this process, the baby step 2, with friends who were also doing it. And when we would invite each other to go out for dinner or to do something on the weekend, we would always have the caveat of, but I respect your budget. So if your budget says that you've already spent all your restaurant money and you can't go out with us, that's okay. Come over to the house and we'll do things. So to have a community of people who were trying to accomplish the same goals was really important and helpful, because people won't understand. We certainly got teased. We certainly got scoffed at because people didn't get it. But we were disciplined and we paid it off. And we will never be in debt again. Now, it's important to say that this is consumer debt, so that we still owe money on our mortgage, and we're paying on that, and that focusing on the mortgage is a later baby step. But I can remember during baby step 2 at Christmas, we got, some of our family gave us cash for Christmas. And I can remember looking at my husband and saying, someday this will be ours to keep. Because at the time, it was already earmarked for debt. Whatever, that stuff we got was already going to pay off debt. And we're gotten to that point where every bonus, every gift is ours to keep and use as we like. And that's an amazing feeling. So baby step 2, writing down all of the debts, paying them off from smallest to largest, regardless of interest rate, and taking whatever payment you had for the one you pay off and rolling it into the next, and just continuing to pay that, and using that snowball to accelerate your payoff for your debts is the way that Chris and I paid off $72,000 of debt on a household income of about $55,000 in 2 years. And we'll never be the same. So I hope you found this encouraging. If you have any questions about paying off debt or thoughts you want to share, feel free to comment below, and I'll talk to you next week.